What's up, fellow fitness entrepreneurs and gym owners? My name is Coach Aaron, and today we're gonna be talking about why we're gonna bill every 4 weeks instead of monthly, the benefits behind that in our gym. We're gonna be covering a series of points that I wanna go over. But first, before we get into that, I wanted to talk about billing every 4 weeks and how you may have heard of that through Alex Hormozi or Gym Launch, right? He made this play very prevalent, but it's actually been around for a while. I was part of the Gym Launch program. This program actually is what pushed me to make that initial jump from going monthly into every 4 weeks. But I'm making this video because there was a series of caveats that weren't addressed that I encountered when I was going through this process, whether there would be explanations to clients, back-end payroll, just overall check-ins and how we did things internally in our business. So I came up with a series of points to cover everything that I felt was missed. And I wanted to share that with you so you don't go through the same problems that I went through and it's just a smoother transition. So the first issue is the problem with monthly billing, right? And the explanation behind that is some months have 29 days, some months have 30 days, and some months have 31. And the base explanation is if a client is paying $179 a month, right? If you're billing monthly, some months they're getting 29 days to work out. Some months they're getting 31 days to work out. Some months they're getting 30. So with that being said, there's inconsistency to both the business, the gym, and to the client. They're paying the premium, and on some months they're getting less, some months they're getting more. Essentially, if we're gonna look at it in a win-loss perspective, on the days that they are paying $179 for 31 days, the gym is losing. On the days that they're paying $179 and getting 29 days, the gym is winning, right? But we're not gonna look at it the perspective because overall, we're trying to be fair, which leads us into our second point of fairness for clients. With that being said, this is my first time shooting long form content in a while, so I have a couple hiccups. Just bear with me, we'll keep it rocking and rolling. So like I said, the fairness with clients. If a client is paying for a week of training, they should get billed for a week of training. Nothing less, nothing more. So that way they're not taking advantage of paying a premium, having less days like in February if there's 29, or the gym is losing out like in July when there's 5 weeks and there's more days of the month, right? So we're keeping it fair. So what they pay for is what they get. We keep it consistent. The same thing is the fairness when it comes to staff, right? We want to keep it fair because if we are expecting a staff to work a week, right? On the months where there is 5 weeks, we're not going to pay them for 4 weeks and expect them to work 5. If the staff is coming in for a week, then the client is getting charged for that week. So it keeps it consistent on the back end for the business. Remember, a week for a week, nothing less, nothing more. So that way it keeps it consistent with our payroll. Because the one thing that I came across with the monthly billing was that I was paying for coaches on an extra 3 to 4 days a month when the client was still getting the same amount of service. So the business was actually losing out on that month of revenue that was additionally added for that extra billing cycle. And I can always make another video to elaborate a little bit more, but the base premise is that the fairness for staff in regards to the business is that if the client is utilizing a week, we are having our staff member on payroll for that week, and the billing is being billed only for that week, nothing less, nothing more. Next comes the business transparency and sustainability. It is a lot easier when our billing happens every 4 weeks, right? And that being said, is based off my previous point. Payroll is every 4 weeks. For the majority of people in our business, right? Aside from salary, if you have any any potential staff members that are on salary, this will obviously be disregarded. But for the majority of people that we have in our staff, the front desk, the coaches, the sustainability behind that is that we're billing these people weekly or bi-weekly, so we need to charge weekly or bi-weekly, which just ends up being a 4-week billing cycle or 28 days, right? The business transparency is ultimately one of the biggest factors that we need to make sure that we're explaining to the member when we switch them over from monthly to weekly is that, hey, you are going back to that initial point that I said, the fairness for the member. You are getting billed for 1 week, so we are going to give you 1 week of service, nothing less, nothing more. And it ultimately creates an efficacy. And that is a big point that you need to elaborate on once you're switching from monthly to billing every 28 days or every 4 weeks. Once you have converted all your members, you don't have to really have that conversation anymore because everybody that comes into your business is just going to understand that that's how you do things. We just bill every 4 weeks over here. But sometimes they will ask because they have other subscriptions, whether it be Netflix, other gym memberships like an LA Fitness or an Equinox or Planet Fitness that they bill monthly. So people just naturally get accustomed to being billed monthly, and they're gonna have some questions for time to time, but it's good for you to have an answer for that so you don't look like you're taking advantage of people. And then ultimately, the client bonuses, right? So when we bill our clients every 4 weeks, it also gives us a better system and metric for tracking. Because if we're billing every 4 weeks, then our programming can change every 4 weeks. And then also our client check-ins, so weigh-ins or check-ins, can happen every 4 weeks. I know personally from experience in our business, I write the programming and I change it every 4 weeks. So we have 4-week mesocycles or training blocks, whatever you want to call them, and those things change every 4 weeks. We also have weigh-ins and check-ins that we do at least every 4 weeks. Sometimes we do those every 2 weeks. But also when you just get your overall internal back end of the business running on a 4-week cycle, you can then have everything on the front end when it comes to client fulfillment, like programming, weigh-ins and check-ins also on that 4-week cycle. So it aligns and it's very transparent and sustainable in the long run for your business. Just makes everything cleaner. And it's one of the things that was important to me to explain for the client as well, especially when it came to the justification from going from monthly over to the weekly or every 4-week billing cycle. And then just as a side note, if any of you have ever done personal training, you know that you only show up when the client is paying for that session. You're not gonna train a session for free. So essentially in the grand scheme of things, it's the same thing. If we are having a trainer show up to provide workouts, then we're billing those clients for the ability to come in and take those workouts. So all in all, these are the main points that I really wanted to cover when it came down to transitioning from a monthly to every 4 weeks. But when it comes to a financial perspective, one of the biggest gains that you will see as well is that you add in an extra billing cycle. The way that billing cycle is added is if you bill monthly, we're getting 12 billing cycles because there's 12 months of the year. When you bill weekly or every 4 weeks, what we do is we get 13 billing cycles. And the reason why we get 13 billing cycles is because there's 52 weeks in the year. We're billing every 4 weeks, which will then lead us to 13 billing cycles. So say over here, you made $10,000 a month, right? From your memberships, which hopefully we're making more, you would get at the end of the year, 120,000. Versus over here, if you made 10,000, right, per month, we're getting 13 billing cycles, which actually equals to 130,000. So you're getting technically an extra month's worth of revenue that can go towards bonuses, that can go towards appreciation parties, that can go towards renovations, towards the gym. So there's a lot of benefits that come with this billing cycle. And ultimately, it's just keeping everything more fair. Because at the end of the day, if a client is receiving a week of service, they should be billed for that week of service, and it should be in conjunction with your payroll. So this is my explanation for why we should be switching over from monthly billing into every 4 weeks. If you have any questions, drop them into the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Again, my name is Coach Aaron. I'm the founder of WOPRO Fitness. Been in business for 13 years. We have 3 locations on the brink of franchising, heading into consultations and consulting for fitness and gym owners. So it's the reason why we're getting back into these videos. So any questions, comments below, leave them in the comment box and we'll keep you rock and rolling.